Hi and welcome. So grab your crystal and your wire. This is a tutorial for absolute beginners. We'll take about 1 meter or so of wire. Take more than you think you need, just so you don't run out. And then we're going to find the two ends so that you can easily find the center of your wire. And at this center, we're going to make a hoop for the top of the pendant using your round-nosed pliers, and use the thickest end and just wrap the wire around the pliers. You may need to pull your pliers out, turn them around to do the last bend around the pliers, and then squeeze the hoops together and join the two ends together and twist a couple of times. So just twist them really tight to hold that hoop together. And there you've made your hoop for the top of your pendant. So in focus. Okay, so there's your hoop ready to put at the top of your crystal. So with your crystal, find which side you would like for the front. I normally take the flattest side for the back. And then you want to see which way up you want it, which do you want to be the top or the bottom. And then once you've decided on that, you pop your wire with the hoop at the top of the crystal and the two wires flat across the back. And then you bring one of the wires up to the front and then cross the other wire over the top of that one. And this is where you'll start to wrap the wires together to begin your spiral. At this stage, you need to hold the wire in place firmly onto the crystal, and then wrap the wires around each other so that they are together. And then you can start wrapping the wire around your thumb. Your thumb is holding the wire onto the crystal, and your fingers are holding the back of the wire onto the crystal. And then you can start wrapping the wire around underneath your thumb to make a spiral. Don't worry too much about what your spiral looks like under your thumb. You need to just try and hold the crystal inside the wire. And then we can wrap one wire around the back of the crystal and one around the front, and wrap it around the crystal. And so the wire is in opposite directions so that you can cross them over at the front to create another spiral. This will help to hold the crystal in place as well, and it also creates another pattern. So we can then start another spiral here by twisting the wires around each other and then holding your thumb on top of the join of the wires and creating a spiral around your thumb. You can pull these wires two together or one at a time. Each technique creates a different spiral, and you can see the difference here. When you pull two together, it is kind of neater, but sometimes it's more difficult. And then we can wrap the wire around the crystal, around the top of the crystal, and then around the hoop at the top. And here we're creating as if the hoop is a face and you're scarfing that face. Now at this point, I tend to check if the design is okay. So here I'm just trying to push this spiral together more and making it look a bit neater. So you can play about with your design. And I also check that the wires are tight, and they're loose here. So by tightening the wires, we grip hold of the wire with the points of our pliers and then just twist the wire, and this will make a kind of lightning effect. Now you can do them in the same direction or you can do them in opposite directions. It creates a different pattern, and you will get to know which direction is going to hold the crystal in place and tighten your wires better. So you can go around tightening up your wires. And as a beginner, it's not so much about the pattern you create. It's more about keeping the crystal and the wire firmly attached to the crystal, so keeping it all secure. Once you've mastered how to keep the crystal and the wires secure, you can then work at creating different designs. And it is practice. Practice is the only way to learn how to make it work for you and how to be happy with the end result. But in the beginning, don't worry too much about what your crystal is going to look like at the end. The main thing here is getting your crystal and your wire to stay together, to stay firmly together, and so that your crystal doesn't slip out of the wire. You can tighten up the back by tightening the wires, and you can also tighten up the front. This creates more of a design if you would like to put more of a design on the front, but sometimes just tightening up the back is enough if you don't want to ruin the design on the front. Here I've done both just because it's tightening up the wire better and holding the crystal better. So you can work on your design, and then once you're happy with that, you can start scarfing the hoop at the top and just scarf it around. So the hoop is like a face, and you scarf the wires around neatly, and then around the back is where we'll tuck the wires in. So halfway across the hoop we'll cut the wires, just so that you've got enough wire left to tuck in. And the scarfing has created a kind of bowl effect, so you can push the wires inside that bowl, and that will stop them popping out and catching people's clothing or skin. And so with your pliers, we'll just push the two ends towards the face. Push it tightly. This is quite difficult to begin with, but you will find which angle it's easier for you and which part of the pliers is easier. So you can push them into the face, and then you can push them down inside the bowl, and then they're tucked out of the way. So that all looks nice and neat, and I'm happy with the end result. The face of the hoop is facing the front and the back at the back. By popping a couple of jump rings in the top, you will be able to hang it on a necklace chain, and it will be facing the right direction. And any loose wires or wires that are sticking out, you can just push them in with your pliers. Make sure all your wires are flat against the crystal, and you can finish tightening up if you need to. At this stage, you can just have a look at your crystal, play around with it, make sure it's all tight enough. Continue to tighten up the crystal. Make sure no wires are loose. This one's a little bit loose here, so just another kink in there, and that should tighten that up a bit. And it's just practice, and you'll get used to it. Don't worry too much about your design. The main priority is making sure your crystal doesn't slip out of the wire. The more you practice, the easier it becomes, and the more confident you become. So just persevere and keep practicing. I'm just finishing up this one now, doing the finishing touches, making sure it's all tight, and I think that's done. I'm happy with that. This crystal is a nice piece of green fluorite. It's a nice piece, and try to use crystals that are larger in size because it's just easier to work with the larger pieces. Once you get confident at it, you can start to work on smaller pieces. Thank you for watching. I hope that helped and you enjoy your wire wrapping.